What is up, everybody? This is Anthony with the VR Game Rankings YouTube channel. It is Tuesday. It is September 25th. It is 11:02 a.m. and we are back in the mix, folks. And of course, today is the launch of Creed. So I have been playing this game for the last couple of days, and this is an exercise game, folks. I mean, well, it's not really like an exercise game per se, but I can tell you that if you play Creed Rise to Glory, you're going to start sweating. You're going to start getting a bit sweaty, and you're going to be using a lot of your arms and your arm muscles. And it's amazing. We see something like this and we think, oh yeah, this is going to be fun. You know, and you start doing it, and it's really fun, right? It's really fun. Everything's going great. It's going great. You know, you're having fun. But 5 minutes later, you're like, oh man, my arms are freaking tired, man. I'm getting hot. I'm getting sweaty. And that's kind of what Creed Rise to Glory is. Those of you that have played Thrill of the Fight, those of you that have played Knockout League, you kind of know what you're getting into here. Is the thing is, when you're moving, you know, the bottom line with this game is you're punching. You're punching a lot. And if you really get into the game, and you probably are really going to get into the game, you start ducking, you start doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and it definitely gets to you after a while. It absolutely gets to you after a while. It's a great exercise game. It is a great boxing game, but one of the things that we have to consider here is, do you want to get hot and sweaty? It's a consideration you have to think about. But at the same time, this gives you that kind of boxing ring feel. Madison Square Garden. This is done better than any boxing game that is out there. I mean, all we have Thrill of the Fight, we have Knockout League, and those are really kind of the two boxing games we have. And this game basically annihilates those games. I mean, absolutely destroys them in terms of all the graphical splendor, in terms of the sound effects, and all of that sort of thing. When you first get into Creed, like when it first starts up, the very beginning of it, you look down on the ground and you will see a ring. You're basically in a square ring. And so what it does is, when you're first starting up the game and it's first loading up, it analyzes your play space and it gives you a boxing ring right at the very beginning. And when you look at yourself, you look down at yourself, you see gloves. You see like the silhouette of a boxer that is wearing gloves. You see your shorts, you see your legs. It is a full body motion capture type of thing. So what they're doing here is they're doing inverse kinematics for your arms and your shoulders and all of that, and where your head is. They're doing inverse kinematics, but they also are giving you that full body experience, and it works pretty well. They've done a pretty damn good job of this, because you are going to inhabit the shoes of a lot of different boxers that have different looks, different heights, different tattoos, different complexions, you know, every little different thing. Some of these guys are short and skinny, some are tall, some are fat and big, some are just big, gigantic, muscular monster men. And whatever the case may be, you are going to inhabit their shoes, and you're going to be in their body. And it's kind of weird when you're doing that. Shirzad Khan City says, Anthony is wearing long sleeves to hide his beast mode. Yeah, no, I know a lot of people said I should have threw on the tank top for today, and someone in chat asked, you should probably wear a tank top while you're playing Creed. And it's not a bad idea, honestly, because you're moving your arms around. You're going to get a little bit more of a movement if you're wearing a tank top, and you know, you're cooler. You're definitely going to want to break out your fans for this game. Just like with Beat Saber, you're probably going to want to have some fans hitting you from multiple angles. And honestly, I don't really have anything much negative to say about Creed Rise to Glory, other than the fact that it is $30. It is $30, okay? And where do you put your 30 bucks? You know, that's a possibility there. And then the other thing is, do you want to get kind of hot and sweaty? Because you're probably going to get hot and sweaty. Now, one thing I have found with Creed is that you can get in there and basically just do one fight, just have one fight, and you can get out of there before you're all hot and sweaty. So you can get in there, you could get one fight and get out. So you can do that. Now, Kevgret says, I paid $23.99 for the physical copy of Creed at Best Buy. He still has the Gamers Club thing. So he got it for 24 bucks. He got a physical version. So he can play it as much as he wants. And then he can also possibly ship that out to somebody else, sell it off on Craigslist, whatever, you know, something along those lines. Let's see, Terry Blanchard says he purchased Creed on Steam, not in my download list until 12 a.m. tonight. Can't wait. Dr. Freeman says, how realistic is the fighting though? Thrill might not be polished, but it's quite realistic. I don't know if this is like the realism that like hardcore boxing fans really want, but I think the realism is very similar to Thrill of the Fight. You still have to dodge punches, you still have to connect with combinations, and it also depends on the difficulty level that you set the game to in the very beginning. When I first got into this game, I put the difficulty level on relatively low, like on an easy difficulty level, because I want to see everything in this game, and I don't need the difficulty level to be really high in the very beginning. So I put it kind of low, and I believe it's too low because I've gotten into a number of fights, and I don't know that I'm actually doing like super well in some of these fights, but I end up knocking the guy out. I get into a lot of situations in a lot of these fights where you basically have to knock the guy out 3 different times, and then it's a TKO, and then it's game over. And so that's kind of what happens here. But yeah, I don't know. Cheaper than a gym membership? It absolutely is cheaper than a gym membership. That is Sponge 720. And I can tell you this, that if you have a routine of playing a number of different VR games for exercise, and it's not a bad idea, you can easily spend 1 hour with your VR headset on, and you can bounce from this exercise game to that exercise game to that exercise. And some people might say, oh, you're not really getting real exercise. Like, that isn't real exercise. Nah, I think it is. If you're moving around, if you're moving your arms around and you're getting hot and you're getting sweaty, it's exercise. It might be very light exercise, but it's exercise nonetheless. And if you already have an exercise routine going and you have a number of different VR games you play, Creed is a perfect opportunity to add a very interesting exercise game to the mix. It has the Rocky music. It has the Rocky sound effects. That's one of the cool things about Creed that is different than something like Thrill of the Fight or Knockout League or whatever. You have that classy Rocky music, and you'll actually be in this game. You'll be in a fight, and it starts doing some of the Rocky background music, and you can't help it, man. I mean, if you're a fan of the old Rocky movies, if you grew up watching some of those old classic Rocky movies and you know all the Rocky movies, there's certain songs in Rocky, there's certain mantras in Rocky that will get your blood pumping. You'll feel it. You'll be like, yeah, like Adrian. You'll feel like, when he climbs those steps in Philadelphia, where he's jogging and he climbs all the way up to the steps and then he turns around and he goes like this. You'll actually feel that at different points in this game, and it's the music, it's the sound effects, it's the whole Creed thing. Now, where does this game stumble? What is the downside to this game? Is there a downside as far as Creed Rise to Glory? And I will tell you, I think there was an opportunity here to do something super, super cool, and they don't quite go far enough from what I've seen so far. And what I'm talking about is anybody that has played some of the NBA 2K games, or you've played some of the more recent Madden games, where they almost have this like role-playing game thing that is going on. Like you can go into a career mode and you can be like a rookie NFL player that just got drafted from some college or something. You know, you could do that in Madden now. You can do this in NBA 2K. In fact, NBA 2K is kind of what started this thing, where is you can kind of have this first-person experience, and it might show you at home in your mansion. And, you know, Rocky Balboa pulls up in his car and he's talking to you, and you're in your mansion, and your girlfriend is there, or your wife or whatever, and you have all these like groupies and stuff. I mean, they could do all kinds of stuff like that where it gives you more of the overall feeling of Creed. And this game doesn't really do that. What this game does is, if you go into the career mode, there are different training modes that you go into. There's different little training exercises that they put you through. And then as you go through all of that, you then go into a fight, and you have to do a fight, and you kind of work your way up. And so it has some of that, but it doesn't really get into, it doesn't do that first person like entertainment thing that Madden and NBA 2K does with some of their modes. And I think it was possible. I think it's something, it would have taken a lot, and it would have made this game a much longer development process, much more expensive, and they probably couldn't really justify that. And maybe there will be a Creed 2 that goes down that road. But that would be my one Debbie Downer, is that it doesn't have that kind of a mode. And I think that kind of a mode in VR, I think would be pretty freaking entertaining. I look forward to the day when NBA 2K and when Madden, when they finally come to VR, and if they still include these types of modes where you're kind of playing out a story and it's kind of like a sports role-playing game, that would be super cool if they had that. So they don't really have that. That's really the only downside. The graphics are fantastic. The sound quality and effects are fantastic. The music is really good. Now, what you're seeing right here, see these different arenas that they're showing you? That is probably the coolest thing of this entire deal, is all the different arenas that you get to fight in. This is one of the things that I felt was kind of missing from Thrill of the Fight and some of these other more amateur games that we've had. I mean, not amateur, but more indie, right? Is you don't necessarily feel like you are in Madison Square Garden. And there's times in Creed where you're in the ring and you're fighting this guy, and then the round ends and you're looking at the crowd and you're looking at Rocky Balboa and he's looking at you and he's standing down there and you're seeing people in the crowd. Now, the thing is, if you really start to pay attention to the crowd, if you really start to look at the crowd, you'll notice that they repeat over and over and over again. There's probably like 5 or 6 different character models for people that are in the crowd, and they repeat endlessly. And so if you stop and you look at them and you pay attention, you'll see it, and it breaks the illusion a little bit. But when you're in a regular fight and you're doing a regular boxing match and you just happen to look over the crowd for a brief second of time and you look back, it feels like you're in the Madison Square Garden. It feels like you're in a real deal thing. All right, so this is Red Lucid Nightmare, and we can tell that it does look pretty indie-ish. Like, this is definitely an indie game. This is being developed by Boulder Games, and supposedly this is coming out on October 1st. And the interesting thing here is it looks like it's mostly black and white, but then there is some red that is thrown in as well. So it's like black, white, and red. It looks a little bit cell shaded. Chris Gould says, another one of these, really? Shirzad Khan City says, looks perfect for his 970. So spooky it doesn't even have color, says Tezrim. Another horror game, I'm out, says Conrad Lawrence. Yeah, dude, these horror games just will not stop. They just won't stop coming. And one of the reasons they won't stop coming is there's so many indie devs that have probably tried a few VR games here or there, and they're like, man, horror, you could do horror so easily. And they come up with these interesting ideas for different horror games, and they just start working on them, and they don't realize that there's a million other developers doing the exact same thing. And we are absolutely being swamped with all of these different horror games. But yeah, this is Red Lucid Nightmare. I just thought, you know, this is something to keep our eyes on because this is an October 1st release, which I believe is next Monday. Here it is on Steam. You can see October 1st, 2018. Boulder Games is a developer. Red Lucid Nightmare. Not much information. It just says it's a survival horror game. You play as Mercedes as she tries to piece together a missing persons case and strange recurring nightmares. So taking a look at some of these screenshots, you can see, you know, kind of spooky. You got your flashlight action going on here. Looks like you got a lighter that you can activate. And so I don't know. I mean, I think it looks pretty decent. Not too bad. But that is Red Lucid Nightmare. This is Creed Rise to Glory, by the way. You can see $29.99. So it is going for that full $30 banger. And, you know, Rocky Balboa in the game is done pretty well, too. It's not his real voice. It's definitely somebody impersonating him, but does do a pretty good job of that. So that is Red Lucid Nightmare. Okay, so Duke Nukem. Did you guys hear about that? Duke Nukem 3D. There is like a mod or something like that. Red Light District. I really don't know too much about this. I just grabbed this video. But you can see he's using an Oculus Rift. Let's look in on this for just a minute.
I'm gonna get medieval on your asses. Rest in pieces.
Yeah, so as I'm watching this, it reminds me of Serious Sam. You know, it reminds me of some of the Serious Sam games. And so apparently this is called Serious Duke 3D. And it's a partial remake of Duke Nukem 3D with full VR support. It is created by Syndroid. It's essentially a mod of Serious Sam 3 using Crow Team's Serious Sam Fusion platform, which you'll need in order to play this. And there's full support for motion controllers, and this is the video that was released. This being a Serious Sam mod, you can also play the levels in co-op, although Syndroid does advise to keep it to a maximum of 4 players. Maximum. So yeah, this is kind of interesting. I don't know, like, how are they doing this from a legality standpoint? Or do you have to own, like, Duke Nukem 3D itself to be able to, like, if you already own Duke Nukem 3D, it's just like some kind of a mod? I always wonder about how this works out from a legal standpoint, but it looks like a Duke Nukem mod in the Serious Sam 3 engine. Yeah, you do need to have a Serious Sam Fusion platform in order to play this. I'm enjoying doing these timestamps and lining it up perfectly to some phrase that I'm about to say, but you might notice on some of these timestamps, you click on them, and I basically talk about something for 40 seconds and then move on to something else. So I could literally have like 100 timestamps. Shirzad Khan said, he says, what time is Oculus Connect 5? I saw something about 10 a.m. Pacific. I don't know if it technically is starting right then at 10 a.m. Pacific or if it's going to be like 10:30 or something like that. But our show, 2 p.m. Pacific. 2 p.m. Pacific. That is when our show will be tomorrow. See you guys then. Take it easy. Later.